Spiritual teachers as a concept tend not to be quite so controversial. If you want to learn math, you go to a math teacher. You want to learn science, you go to a science teacher. You want to learn piano, you go to a piano teacher. You want to embark on a spiritual path, you go to a spiritual teacher. It makes perfect sense. The dilemma that people face is when we actually start talking about gurus, because the concept holds such a wide and vast amount of meaning and connotation, and some positive, some not positive. And then it's so loaded that I want to take that on rather than go the easy way of spiritual teacher. Because actually the truth is a guru is more than a spiritual teacher. And the example that I always give on this is a teacher can teach you something. A guru actually gives you the experience. And so if you were learning oceanography from an oceanography teacher, you would learn everything there was to know about life under the ocean. But your clothes would still be dry. And if you were learning oceanography from a guru, you'd still learn about the ocean, but you'd be gasping for breath and your clothes would be soaked. And so teachers can teach us about peace and about our own divine nature and about the soul and about love. But what a guru does is actually gives us the experience of that. The word guru literally means, the Sanskrit definition literally means the one who removes the darkness and brings light. And this is why it's so important, because as I was just saying, God is there. The divinity is there. Peace is there. It's not something you've got to find in some corner of the world or something you've got to manufacture in a science laboratory. It's there. It is our nature. It is the core of who we are. It's the truest, deepest aspect of who we are. So why is that which we are seeking the most? Why do we feel so far from it? Because we live in darkness. Not darkness of badness, which is an important distinction, as we have so many people from the West as well as Indians sitting here. In the West, when we think about darkness, and I know just very personally when in my life I had thought about my darkness, it was always a darkness that was very core to who I am. Like capital I, capital am. The darkness was who I am. It was me. And yeah, maybe by chance there was some divine being who could wave a magic wand and turn me, dark being, into light being. But that's not actually what the Indian spiritual philosophy means when they talk about darkness. The core of who we are is actually light, is actually pure, contrary to what so many of us have been raised, not consciously, not maliciously, but we've just sort of absorbed by cultural osmosis, you could say. I mean, there's nobody saying to you, you are dark. I mean, maybe, but not that many, thankfully. But we do all tend to really absorb it. So the light that so many of us look for is the light that's going to make me okay. That's going to make me not so dark inside. Whereas actually, if we go deep enough, what we find is the light is there. The darkness is the darkness that has covered the light. So the light is at the core. The darkness is that on top of it, which is that which says, I'm this body. All the wrong things it's done, all the time it's wasted, all the opportunities it's lost, all the things it's failed at. I am the things that have happened to this body. I am my neuroses, I am my illnesses, I am my parents' neuroses, I am my parents' illnesses, right? And I am this or I am the child of that. They're all aspects of our identity. And that's the darkness. It's ignorance. It's what blocks us from knowing who we are and living as the truth of who we are. And so what the Guru does, it's not the magic wand of I take you who art dark and make you light. I take you who art impure and make you pure. But I take you who are light but don't know it and remove the darkness of ignorance from you so that you can see your own light. And can it happen without a guru? In theory, yes. There's nothing that says you must have a guru. The spiritual history of the Indian spiritual traditions, the Hindu spiritual traditions, as well as so many of the world's spiritual, mystical traditions, have examples of sages and mystics who have experienced it spontaneously. But on a personal level, it's a risk I wouldn't want to take. I mean, if someone said, do it this way, you've got a really good chance of finding the light. Do it that way, yeah, you could find it. 1890, there was, someone, he was born and he found it. And, 1730, someone else was born and he found it. The odds are not the odds that if I had a choice I would go with, especially given that we have gurus. If we didn't have any and we had no option, then sure, you hold those sages and mystics as the ideal and say, you bless me, show me how you did it. But when we have gurus, why not? I mean, if you had to get across an ocean and your choice were get in a boat with someone who knows how to sail or figure it out yourself. Yeah, I mean, you could figure it out yourself. You could channel the art of sailing. You could become one with the wind. I'm sure on a very, very deep spiritual level it's possible. But if my life mattered to me and I had the option of getting in a boat with someone who knew how to sail, I would take that option every time. Just increases your chances of making it across. So the last piece, though, that you've asked of how to know. And this is where it gets tricky because there is no cookie cutter answer. It's not like, well, here's what gurus look like, and here's the litmus test. They come in all shapes and sizes, genders, nationalities. A couple pieces, though, to give you. The first is, you're going to feel something inside in the presence of a guru. When you experience that light, you feel something. But now here's a subtle but important aspect. Sometimes charisma masquerades as truth. And there is also a feeling that you get in the presence of a charismatic leader that is different than truth. It is the same thing that, got so many otherwise good, peaceful people into lynch mobs or into, I mean, we could go throughout history and see what charismatic leaders have gotten otherwise well-meaning, good people who followed them to do. And it doesn't mean the people were stupid. It doesn't mean the people were bad. It just means that charisma itself is also very magnetic. And if we're not really paying attention, we can mistake charisma for truth. Especially when there's a crowd mentality, when there's lots of people saying, oh, isn't this great? Isn't this great? Isn't this great? Isn't this great? And you get swept up in the charisma of the moment. And this is where it's really important to check in and make sure that even when you're sitting in your room alone, minus the crowd, minus the presence of the leader, what you experience is the presence of the light, not a longing for the crowd. It's not, oh God, it was so great 2 hours ago when we were all together. But wow, my light's been turned on. And even though I'm now crowdless, charismaless, I can still feel it and can still see. And that's the first piece I would give you. And the second piece that I would give you is, the more someone tries to convince you that they are the right guru for you, the faster I would run in the other direction. The real gurus are doing this for us, not for themselves. They're not attached to the number of people they accumulate. They're so connected to source that, oh, no crowd today? Great, it's just me and God. And that fills them with joy. It's not, where's my crowd? They're giving you energy, not sucking your energy. And so if you find someone trying to convince you that they are the only, they are the best, they are the right ones, I would run in the other direction. When I first came to Rishikesh, before I had met Pujya Swamiji, in the week or so that I was living in a hotel before moving in here, we had met a wandering sadhu. And this by no means is to turn you off the wandering sadhus. I'm sure many of them are very divine and wonderful. We happened to meet one who was of a sort of interesting sort. And he spoke some English and he said, come and sit with me. And we had nothing else to do. And so we said, sure. And so we went and sat with him. He didn't live at Parmarth Niketan. He lived downriver. He had a little room. And he would sit on his bed and we would sit on the floor and he would tell us things. And after the first day or so, he explained that it was customary to bring boxes of sweets when you go to see the guru. And so we were expected the next day to show up with boxes of sweets. But that was okay. I mean, that was part of the adventure. It was fun, sure. So we'd go to the market and we'd buy a box of sweets and then we'd go and we'd show up and give him the sweets. And this went on for a few days, and it seemed really harmless, and and after I met Pujya Swamiji, and I was, for those of you who don't know my whole story, I'm not going to share it at the moment, but I was living in those days in just this state of ecstasy. I mean, I had been touched by something very, very special. And so it was just everything was God and everything was beautiful and everything was perfect, including buying sweets and sitting on the floor beneath the bed of this man who spoke to us. And so once I met Pujya Swamiji, though, and had many other even bigger and deeper spiritual experiences and was permitted to move into Parmarth, we stopped going, of course, to this man, but bumped into him one night in the market and said, guess what? I mean, I was just ecstatic. I had met Pujya Swamiji. I didn't even know the word guru at that point, but I had met him and I was sharing with the sadhu that I had met him, and I was so blessed, and I was allowed to move into Paramarth Niketan, and he went ballistic. And you can't do that. You're my disciples. I mean, literally started yelling at us in the market. And we had to really, hands on shoulders, calm him down. Now, I share this because obviously it's not always going to be quite so dramatic. They're not necessarily going to always chase you through a marketplace, screaming, "You're my disciples." But if you get just the feeling of being chased, even if it's not literally being chased, if you get a feeling of someone saying, "No, no, no, you can't go there. I knew you first," this is really when you walk in the other direction. Whether you have found something specific to walk toward or not, don't worry, it will come to you. I happen to have something I was walking toward. But even if you don't worry. It will come.